Alright, so some of the most popular drugs you find on the streets are cocaine, methamphetamine, ketamine, GHB. What most people don't know is that these drugs are considered Schedule II drugs. To put it into perspective, we all know what Vicodin is, it's a pain medication, and what that medication is known for is, or what it is considered a Schedule III drug. And what most people do not know is that a lot of drugs or chemicals out there are rated from Schedule 1 to Schedule 5. This rating is done by the FDA, and with Schedule 1 being absolutely forbidden and Schedule 5 being, it's okay for you to take it, it's prescribed to you. So what Schedule 1 means that is, it's definitely forbidden, but what most people don't know is that marijuana is actually a Schedule 1 drug. And I find that very hard to believe because medical marijuana has been used for thousands of years. It has helped many people, and it is actually not forbidden. It's right now it's been accepted in a couple states, and it's growing in popularity. So today I will like to try to persuade you about some of the health benefits that marijuana has, because the studies that show those who have used it for health purposes yield positive outcomes. Okay, so marijuana has been around for thousands of years, as you know, and a growing number of states, including ours, California, has enacted laws to further research medical marijuana, including our national capital, Washington, D.C. Medical cannabis ultimately can help with treating cancer. This part of treating cancer is important to me because my aunt was diagnosed with breast cancer a couple years ago, and surprisingly, she actually accepted the fact when I suggested her that she try medical marijuana. She has, by watching her, she has cut down her medication a lot. Her mood has changed, and even though she is now cancer-free because they medically removed her breasts, she is now a great advocate for medical marijuana. The Molecular Cancer Therapeutics Society said that the cannabidiol has the ability to stop cancer by turning off a gene called the ID1. In 2007, researchers at California Pacific Medical Center in San Francisco reported that CBD, which is medical cannabis, may prevent cancer from spreading. The researchers experimented on breast cancer cells in the lab that had a high level of ID1 and treated them with the cannabis. The outcome was rather positive. The cells had decreased ID1 expression and were less aggressive spreaders. In fact, the American Association for Cancer Research has found that marijuana actually works to slow down tumor growth in brain, breast, and your lungs considerably. In addition to slowing and weakening the cancer cells, cannabis has helped overall patient perspective when it comes to cancer treatment. A growing number of patients have ultimately lessened their intake on daily medication, and it has even helped bring back their appetite and helped with their nausea. It also heightened their lowered spirits. There are many illnesses that are treatable with cannabis. There's actually hundreds and hundreds of illnesses. There are some such as Alzheimer's, anxiety, and PTSD. Alzheimer's is an illness where a large number of nerve cells in your brain has completely died, therefore there's no function. It affects one's ability to remember things. My grandpa actually has Alzheimer's, and it's kind of sad because when I see him, he doesn't know who I am. He thinks I'm his daughter. He doesn't even have a daughter. Doctors don't know what causes Alzheimer's, therefore there is no cure for Alzheimer's. But medical cannabis has been proven to be an actual help. Fortunately, Dr. Gary Wink, he's a PhD at Ohio State University and Medical Center, believes that medical cannabis appears safe, and that it mimics those important properties of marijuana, can work on receptors on the brain to actually mimic and prevent memory impairments and aging. So so far what his research has shown is that although it doesn't cure Alzheimer's, it can help the brain's function in fixing those damaged brain cells or dead brain cells. Another illness that people deal with is anxiety, along with sleep, depression, and other mood disorders. They're all mental disorders, so it has nothing to do with your physical health. Something that may be causing these mood disorders is that they are very low on cannabinoids, that are compounds that are found in cannabis, and also that your brain produces naturally. What this does is that the cannabis it mimics the natural property that your brain cannot produce, and what it does is that it increases your body's serotonin, which is a chemical compound produced by your body to promote mood elevation. Another thing that medical marijuana could help with is PTSD. PTSD is short for post-traumatic stress disorder. Some of the most common PTSD includes recurring nightmares of certain events, insomnia, and loss of feeling. Some people that deal with a lot of PTSD are war veterans. War veterans have a great deal of PTSD because of all the experience that they've dealt with in the Middle East, whether it's watching a friend die or having to kill people. Over 20% of the veterans returning from the Middle East have been diagnosed with PTSD, and currently the Veterans Affairs are spending over $4 billion in compensation to veterans. So therefore, a lot of the war doctors are actually looking for alternatives to deal with. Dr. Philip Levique is not only a combat veteran, but a doctor, a pharmacologist, and a forensic toxicologist. He is an authority of treatment of PTSD and its symptoms with marijuana. Dr. Levique strongly recommends the use of marijuana to veterans who experience PTSD because every veteran deserves any and all types of medical and psychological assistance. In conclusion, what I realize is that people might not completely agree with legalizing marijuana for recreational use because people will abuse it, but that's the same as saying that we can't legalize alcohol because people will abuse alcohol. So a way to fix this, I believe, is that we could be able to legalize marijuana, but also have the state and law enacted to have control over these things. And also, it's not only will it help people that need medical marijuana, but it will also help the state because ever since Colorado has legalized marijuana, they have actually brought in $53 million in tax revenue alone. So I believe that marijuana should be legalized because ever since that it has been legalized in Colorado and in Seattle, there has been 0 related deaths, and ultimately it could help with lots of illnesses through studies that could be brought upon once marijuana has been legalized.
Natalie, can you share your thoughts with us, please? Oh, you missed it. Okay, well, let me see if we can do a switch off on this one. Taylor, could you maybe offer some opinions, and then we'll have Natalie do Nick's speech.
Yeah, so the opening sounded like it was going to be effective, but then I got a little confused with the schedule terms. If maybe explain the schedules first, and then talk about the scales and where everything falls, because at first it was a little confusing. The topic was good, except I wasn't sure what your topic was about. If you were promoting medical marijuana, and then at the end you suddenly were then saying, okay, it should be legalized everywhere. And I don't know how they can't get the same studies of just of the effects of medical marijuana and the benefits of marijuana from studying Washington and Colorado, and then applying that, and then saying, okay, now we know, without suddenly making it nationwide. So I don't understand how that didn't work. You previewed it kind of well, but then again, the ending kind of threw it all off. I wasn't sure, I didn't catch too many of your sources, but it sounded like you had a few. Your closing was kind of abrupt, and it seemed like you weren't even sure of it, because then you suddenly, like, wait, maybe I had more to say. One big step at the end. It didn't seem like you practiced your speech very much. Even when you looked at your cards, it seemed like you suddenly then were like, okay, wait, where am I pulling from? And then you came back to it. And you had some nervous tics, constantly moving your legs around. Your eye contact wasn't too often looking out at the audience. You were kind of looking back beyond us other times. So, yeah, that's all I think I got.
Well, that's a lot of stuff, and that, and a lot of the things that I was going to be talking about also. I think you need to be clear from the beginning that your focus is on medical marijuana, that there's an argument to be made that marijuana has potential medical benefits. I think the controversy concerns whether or not we're researching it enough, whether or not people have adequate access to it. And since you mentioned that we have many states that have made it accessible for people for medical purposes, I would think there'd be some more data that you could point to about those benefits for people in places where they have this easy access. As it is, it sounds very generic when we're talking about the benefits. Just as an example, the quote that you had for the PTSD application at the end on the doctor who's recommending it, basically that opinion doesn't say that it does anything to reduce PTSD. It says anything that would benefit people with PTSD should be available to them. And I'm going, okay, well, where's the proof that says this, has that substantial benefit? I was looking for some research on that. The research on cancer I thought was a little bit better. You present some information. Of course, it doesn't say that it cures cancer, but there are some indicators that it might be beneficial in reducing the speed at which tumors grow. I think that's interesting information. We don't get much context on what the research environment is for doing this kind of stuff, or, for example, there's not any mention of the synthetic forms of marijuana that are available for doing the kinds of things that you're talking about. So, since people can legally obtain it, even under FDA guidelines in the synthetic form, is there some problem with that? Does it not do the same kinds of things? Why do we need to legalize it? And then I got to agree with Taylor about the end. It sounds like you suddenly went from talking about medical marijuana to legalizing it and let's get some tax money too. And it just felt like it was underdeveloped there at the end. It's tough. I know people. Nobody wants to say negative things about their classmates. Everybody wants to be supportive. And I know that Taylor's trying to be fair to you. I think he was more than fair to you. You are going through this as if this is like maybe the second time that you're doing the speech out loud. You are reading a lot. You have a lot of nervous tics while you're speaking. You need to be a lot more polished, and you need to know where you're going with the material as it is. It just feels like you are feeling it out a little bit more than you are, I've arrived at the position that I want to be at. And that's all indicated by all kinds of things that are going on. He mentioned the leg crossing thing. I've mentioned You know, the pacing of the presentation, you got your face rubs, your hair flying, you know, you're just a lot of nervous kinds of tics, and I think it's indicative of the fact that you need a little bit more preparation and structuring to make this work. The subject matter is important. I think you've got some good research in the presentation, but you aren't quite sure how you're going to handle it, and it becomes obvious that you're having problems handling it because of the presentation signs that you're giving off. All right, thank you.